My beloved brothers and sisters, much of our stress in life comes from being emotionally attached to what we cannot control, people's actions, changing situations and expectations that were never promised to us. We hold on tightly, hoping life will go exactly as we imagine, and when it doesn't, our hearts become restless and heavy. Islam teaches us a beautiful balance. Care deeply, but trust Allah more. The moment you learn to detach your heart from creation and attach it fully to Allah, you unlock a calm that no circumstance can steal. Detachment is not about becoming cold or distant. It is about freeing your soul from constant worry and placing your trust where it truly belongs. When you stop depending on people, outcomes and expectations for your happiness, you make space for peace, clarity and contentment. And that is the kind of life Allah wants for your heart. Attachment to people creates anxiety, not peace. Attachment to people becomes the silent root of anxiety, because the human heart was never designed to rest on something unstable. When your emotional security is placed in the hands of those who change, grow distant, misunderstand, disappoint or leave, your inner world begins to tremble. The more you expect from people, the more your heart becomes fragile. You begin to measure your worth by their words, your peace by their presence, and your happiness by their behavior. This is not how Allah created the heart to function. The heart was created to depend on the one who never changes, never forgets, never leaves, and never fails. When you attach your emotional life to people, you unknowingly place your peace on shifting ground. Every unanswered message becomes a storm. Every change in tone becomes a wound. Every absence becomes fear. Anxiety grows not because people are evil, but because the heart is leaning where it was never meant to lean. Allah knows the weakness of the human heart, and that is why He calls you back to Himself again and again, so your peace may be rooted in something eternal, not something temporary. The anxiety of attachment does not arrive suddenly. It builds quietly through constant emotional monitoring. You begin watching people's moods, reading between their words, replaying conversations, analyzing silence, fearing distance, and worrying about outcomes that you cannot control. Your mind becomes restless because your heart is not anchored. You are not living in the present. You are living in reaction. Every moment is shaped by someone else's behavior. When they are kind, you feel light. When they withdraw, your chest tightens. When they misunderstand you, your peace collapses. This is not life. This is emotional captivity. Allah never intended your heart to live in such exhaustion. He created your heart to be free from constant fear, free from emotional dependency, free from the prison of expectations. The more you attach yourself to people, the more you surrender control of your inner peace to forces you cannot command. And whatever you give power over your heart will rule your emotional state. That is why attachment to people produces anxiety, not peace. People are not consistent. Even the most loving human beings are limited by their emotions, experiences, struggles, and flaws. They cannot carry the responsibility of your emotional stability. When you expect them to do so, you place a burden upon them that only Allah can bear. The heart that expects perfection from people will always remain disappointed. The heart that depends on people for fulfillment will always remain anxious, because humans were not created to be your source of security. They were created to walk beside you, not to replace the role of your Lord. When you return your heart to Allah, something profound begins to happen. The pressure on people is released. The fear inside you softens. The storms in your chest calm. You no longer tremble when people change, because your foundation is no longer shaking. Peace is not found in attachment. Peace is found in alignment. Alignment with Allah, the only one capable of holding your heart without breaking it. The anxious heart is the attached heart. It is the heart that clings to outcomes, demands certain responses, fears certain losses, and obsesses over control. This heart lives in constant tension because it is always guarding something it might lose. It is always preparing for disappointment. It is always bracing for pain. But when you detach your emotional core from people and return it to Allah, the heart begins to breathe again. You still care, you still love, you still connect, but you are no longer imprisoned by dependency. You become steady in a world of change. You walk calmly through uncertainty. You remain balanced through both closeness and distance. This is not emotional coldness, it is emotional maturity. It is the strength that Islam teaches. Care deeply, but trust Allah more. Love sincerely, but anchor your heart in your Creator. Because only then does peace finally replace anxiety. Attachment tells you that you cannot survive without certain people. Faith tells you that Allah is sufficient. Attachment tells you that if someone leaves, you will break. Faith tells you that if someone leaves, Allah remains. Attachment whispers that your happiness depends on being understood, chosen, remembered, and prioritized. Faith reminds you that your worth was already written by Allah before any human ever knew your name. This shift of the heart is where healing begins. This is where anxiety loosens its grip. This is where your life becomes lighter. And this is why Islam calls you to detach from people, not to lose love, but to gain peace. Let go of expectations and protect your heart. Expectations are often the quiet source of our deepest heartbreaks. They form silently, without announcement, and settle into the heart as invisible contracts we believe the world has signed. We expect people to understand us, to remain consistent, to respond the way we would respond, to care as deeply as we care, yet life was never built on guarantees between human hearts. When those expectations go unmet, and they often do, the pain feels personal, even though it is simply the collision between hope and reality. Allah never commanded you to live inside that collision. He commands you to protect your heart, because the heart is an amana, a trust placed in your care. When you let go of expectations, you are not giving up on love or hope. You are freeing your heart from unnecessary suffering. You are choosing realism with faith over fantasy with pain. You are choosing peace over constant disappointment. Many people believe that expectations are what give relationships meaning, but in reality, expectations often drain relationships of mercy. When you expect too much from people, you stop seeing them for who they are and begin measuring them against a version of them that only exists in your mind. That distance between expectation and reality becomes the space where resentment grows. The heart becomes heavy because it is always comparing what is happening with what should have happened. Letting go of expectations does not mean becoming indifferent. It means loving people as they are, not as you wish they would be. It means accepting that every soul is walking its own journey, carrying its own wounds, limitations, and capacities. When you allow people to be human, you protect your heart from the constant shock of disappointment. Expectations also create emotional dependency. When you expect someone to fill your emotional needs, your heart becomes attached to their responses, their moods, their availability. Your peace becomes fragile because it now lives in someone else's hands. A delayed reply can disturb your sleep. A change in tone can ruin your day. Silence can make your mind spiral. None of this is because the other person is cruel. It is because expectations gave them control over your emotional state. Islam teaches something far more stable. Place your heart with Allah first. Let people be companions, not foundations. When Allah becomes your emotional anchor, expectations lose their power to wound you because your peace is no longer negotiable. Protecting your heart begins with recognizing its sensitivity. The heart absorbs experiences deeply. It remembers pain long after the moment has passed. It holds on to words, glances and silences. That is why Allah repeatedly commands believers to guard their hearts, to purify their intentions and to place their trust in Him. When you release unrealistic expectations, your heart stops carrying weights it was never meant to hold. You no longer wait for others to act a certain way for you to feel okay. You begin to feel okay because you trust Allah's plan. Even when people fall short, that trust becomes your shield. It keeps your heart soft without letting it become broken. Letting go of expectations does not make you weak. It makes you wise. It allows you to move through life without bitterness, without chronic disappointment, and without emotional exhaustion. You still care. You still love. You still hope. But now your hope is rooted in Allah, not in fragile human promises. This shift transforms how you experience relationships, trials, and even yourself. You stop chasing emotional security from people and start building it within your connection to Allah. That is when the heart becomes protected, calm and strong, not because life became easier, but because your heart learned where to place its trust. Trusting Allah frees you from emotional burdens. Trusting Allah is not simply a belief of the tongue, it is the re-education of the heart. Most emotional burdens are born from trying to carry what only Allah was meant to. Hold fear of the future, regret over the past, anxiety about people, attachment to outcomes, and the constant pressure of needing life to unfold a certain way. When you do not trust Allah, your heart remains clenched around everything it cannot control. You try to manage tomorrow, protect yesterday, and predict every outcome in between. The soul grows tired not because life is heavy, but because the heart is holding what was never assigned to it. Trusting Allah begins when you finally release that grip. You stop negotiating with uncertainty. You stop rehearsing disasters in your mind. You stop punishing yourself for things beyond your reach. You place your heart in Allah's care, and that single act begins dissolving burdens that no amount of reasoning could ever remove. The moment trust enters the heart, emotional weight begins to shift. What once felt unbearable starts to feel manageable. Not because the circumstances changed, but because the heart's relationship with those circumstances changed. The believer who trusts Allah still faces hardship, disappointment and uncertainty, but they do not face them alone. They no longer interpret every struggle as a personal failure or a sign of doom. They begin seeing life as a journey guided by divine wisdom rather than a battlefield they must survive by themselves. This perspective lifts an invisible pressure from the chest. Worry softens, fear loosens. The mind no longer races in constant defense. Trust becomes a quiet companion that walks beside you through every moment, reminding your heart that whatever happens next is already within Allah's knowledge, mercy and plan. Many emotional burdens come from trying to extract guarantees from life, guarantees of love, stability, success and safety. But Allah never promised you comfort without trials. He promised you meaning within them. Trusting Allah means you stop demanding that life makes sense immediately. You allow the unfolding to happen at its pace, knowing that your understanding is limited while His wisdom is complete. This surrender does not weaken your spirit, it stabilizes it. The heart that trusts Allah is no longer desperate for control. It becomes calm even when the path ahead is unclear. It becomes resilient even when answers are delayed. It becomes steady even when outcomes remain unknown. Trusting Allah also releases the emotional burden of people. When you stop expecting humans to behave perfectly, you stop being crushed by their imperfections. You no longer measure your worth by how they treat you. You no longer panic when their attention shifts or their intentions confuse you. You remember that hearts change, but Allah does not. You stop placing your emotional future in the hands of those who cannot carry it. This shift frees you from disappointment, resentment, and constant emotional turbulence. You still love, but you no longer cling. You still care, but you no longer collapse when people fail you. Your heart becomes anchored. When trust settles into the soul, it creates emotional space. The mind quiets, the heart relaxes, the body feels lighter. You begin to live more fully in the present instead of being trapped between regrets and fears. You stop dragging yesterday's pain into today's moments. You stop letting tomorrow's worries steal today's peace. Trust gives you permission to breathe again. It teaches you that you are safe even when life feels uncertain, because you are not walking this road without guidance. Allah is already ahead of you, shaping every step. Trusting Allah is what allows the heart to finally rest. Trusting Allah transforms how you carry pain. Instead of letting pain define you, you allow it to refine you. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And begin asking, what is Allah teaching me through this? That single shift removes bitterness from the heart. Pain becomes a messenger instead of a curse. You no longer resist every hardship as if it were an enemy. You receive it as a process of shaping. The emotional burden of resentment begins to dissolve because your heart understands that nothing arrives without purpose. Even loss becomes meaningful. Even disappointment becomes instructional. And when pain carries meaning, it no longer crushes you, it strengthens you. Trusting Allah also dissolves the burden of comparison. When you no longer measure your life against the lives of others, you stop feeling behind, inferior, or forgotten. You realize that every soul has its own pace, its own trials, and its own timing. Allah distributes experiences with precision, not randomness. What you receive today and what you are denied today are both part of a carefully balanced design. Trust allows you to step out of the exhausting race of comparison and into the quiet acceptance of your unique path. That acceptance is deeply freeing. It removes the pressure to perform, compete, and prove yourself. Your life becomes about growth, not measurement. One of the heaviest emotional burdens is the need for answers. We want explanations for every delay, every loss, every unanswered prayer. The mind obsesses over the why, while the heart bleeds from the waiting. Trusting Allah teaches you that not every answer must arrive before peace can enter your heart. Some answers come later, some come differently, some come only in the hereafter, and some are never revealed at all. Yet peace still grows because your heart chooses faith over certainty. You become comfortable not knowing everything because you trust the one who knows everything. This comfort with uncertainty removes enormous emotional strain from your soul. Trusting Allah also frees you from the burden of self-blame. You stop replaying your mistakes endlessly. You stop punishing yourself for what you could not have known at the time. You accept that growth requires error and wisdom requires experience. You begin forgiving yourself the way Allah forgives you, with mercy, patience, and hope. This self-forgiveness releases the heart from shame and allows it to heal properly. You no longer carry your past like a chain around your chest. You carry it as a lesson behind you. Perhaps the most liberating effect of trusting Allah is the end of emotional isolation. Even when you are physically alone, your heart is not lonely. You feel accompanied by divine presence. You know that your struggles are seen, your tears are counted, and your efforts are recorded. This awareness changes everything. You are no longer walking through life unseen. You are walking under the gaze of mercy. And that knowledge makes even the heaviest emotional load feel lighter. Trusting Allah reshapes your relationship with fear. Fear no longer dictates your decisions, your relationships, or your future. Instead of constantly anticipating loss, betrayal, or failure, you begin to believe that whatever arrives carries divine wisdom even when it is painful. This belief does not remove fear completely, but it transforms it. Fear becomes quieter. It stops dominating your thoughts. You move forward despite uncertainty because your heart knows that it is protected, guided, and never abandoned. The emotional burden of constant worry slowly dissolves, replaced by steady courage. Trust also removes the burden of perfection. You no longer believe that you must always be strong, composed, and in control. You allow yourself to be human, to struggle, to falter, to grow gradually. You stop demanding instant transformation from yourself. You trust Allah's timing not only in external events, but in your own healing. This patience with your own process brings deep emotional relief. The heart softens, the pressure lifts, you breathe again. Trusting Allah lightens the burden of decision making. Instead of being paralyzed by overthinking, you act with intention and leave the outcome with Allah. You choose what feels right, what aligns with your values and faith, then release the result. This removes the emotional exhaustion of trying to calculate every possible future. You walk forward calmly, knowing that whatever unfolds next is already part of divine planning. Trust also heals your relationship with loss. When something leaves your life, a person, an opportunity, a dream, you grieve, but you do not collapse. You allow yourself to feel the pain without letting it destroy you. You trust that Allah never removes something without replacing it with something better for your soul. This belief does not erase sadness, but it prevents despair. The heart remains open, hopeful, and resilient. When trust settles deeply, your emotional world becomes simpler. You stop fighting reality. You stop chasing what is not meant for you. You stop resisting what has already been written. You move with the current of divine will instead of against it. And in that movement, burdens fall away one by one. The heart becomes lighter. The soul becomes calmer. And peace begins to grow quietly from within. Trusting Allah also dissolves the emotional burden of people's opinions. When your heart is anchored in divine approval, the noise of the world loses its power. Praise no longer inflates you. Criticism no longer shatters you. You become steady in who you are, not because everyone agrees with you, but because Allah knows your intentions. This inner stability is one of the greatest freedoms a human being can experience. You no longer live in performance mode, you live in alignment with your faith and your values. The emotional exhaustion of constantly seeking validation fades away. Trust removes the burden of urgency. You stop rushing your life. You stop forcing outcomes. You stop demanding that everything fall into place immediately. Instead, you develop patience with the unfolding of your own story. You realize that the most meaningful transformations require time. This patience protects your heart from frustration, disappointment, and despair. You begin to enjoy the journey instead of only chasing the destination. Trusting Allah also lifts the burden of resentment. You no longer replay old wounds with the same intensity. You forgive more easily, not because people deserve it, but because your heart deserves peace. You understand that holding on to anger is like carrying fire in your chest. Trust helps you release that fire. Your heart cools, your soul softens, your spirit becomes lighter. Trust teaches you how to carry responsibility without being crushed by it. You do your part with sincerity, then surrender the rest. You stop exhausting yourself by trying to control everything. You accept that some matters belong to Allah alone. This acceptance frees your heart from the impossible weight of total control. When trust matures, your emotional world becomes organized. You feel grounded even in chaos. You remain hopeful even in hardship. You stay gentle even in struggle. Your heart no longer swings wildly between highs and lows. It becomes balanced, anchored and calm. This is not the absence of emotion. It is emotional mastery rooted in faith. Trusting Allah frees you from the emotional burden of loneliness. Even when the world feels distant, even when people misunderstand you or drift away, your heart does not feel abandoned. You sense a presence greater than any human companionship. You speak to Allah in the quiet. You cry to Him in the dark. You lean on Him when no one else sees your struggle. This companionship of the soul becomes your greatest comfort. You are no longer desperate for company because you are never truly alone. Trust also removes the burden of the unknown. The future stops terrifying you. You stop trying to predict every outcome. You accept that what lies ahead is hidden for a reason. This surrender does not make you careless, it makes you calm. You prepare, you plan, you strive, but you do not panic. You know that whatever arrives will come with the strength to face it. This belief stabilizes the heart in a world of uncertainty. Trusting Allah teaches your heart to be gentle with itself. You stop speaking harshly to yourself. You stop measuring your worth by your productivity or your success. You remember that your value comes from being Allah's creation, not from how much you achieve. This self-compassion removes deep emotional tension and allows healing to settle into your soul. Trust also lightens the burden of regret. You no longer obsess over what could have been different. You accept your past as part of your growth. You forgive yourself for the lessons you learned the hard way. You carry your history with wisdom instead of shame. This acceptance releases heavy chains from the heart. By this stage of trust, your emotional world becomes peaceful, stable, and resilient. Life still brings challenges, but they no longer control you. Your heart remains calm. Your soul remains steady. Your spirit remains hopeful. You have learned the greatest secret of emotional freedom. Place your trust in Allah and your burdens will never break you. Trusting Allah ultimately frees you from the emotional burden of fear about your own future. You stop wondering whether you will survive what is coming because you know that Allah would not place anything in your path without also placing within you the strength to carry it. You walk forward with quiet courage, not because you feel invincible, but because you feel guided. The heart becomes steady even when the road ahead is unclear. That steadiness is one of the greatest gifts of faith. Trust also dissolves the emotional weight of control. You no longer exhaust yourself trying to manage everything and everyone. You release what was never yours to hold. You focus on your intentions, your effort and your sincerity, and you surrender the results to Allah. This release creates a deep sense of inner freedom. The heart relaxes, the chest feels lighter, the mind grows calmer. Trusting Allah softens how you experience hardship. Struggles no longer feel like punishment. They feel like preparation. They no longer make you bitter, they make you wiser. They no longer close your heart, they expand it. Through trust, even pain becomes a teacher and even loss becomes a door. When trust becomes your natural state, emotional peace becomes your constant companion. You are no longer fighting life, you are walking with it. You are no longer resisting what is written. You are growing through it. Your heart learns that peace does not come from controlling your world, but from trusting the one who controls it. This is the freedom that trust brings. A heart that is no longer burdened by fear, regret, resentment, comparison or despair. A soul that rests in divine care. A mind that is calm in uncertainty. And a life that moves forward with faith, patience and quiet strength, knowing that as long as Allah is with you, no burden can ever truly defeat you. Detachment builds strength and inner calm. Detachment is not the absence of care, it is the presence of wisdom. When you begin to detach your heart from what it cannot control, something powerful happens within you. The mind stops racing, the chest loosens, the soul breathes again. Detachment is the art of holding life gently instead of gripping it with fear. Most of the inner storms people suffer are not caused by what happens, but by how tightly they cling to what they cannot command. People's choices, uncertain outcomes, shifting emotions, unpredictable circumstances. The heart becomes exhausted because it is constantly guarding, managing, protecting and worrying. Detachment ends that war. It does not make you passive. It makes you grounded. You still move forward, but you move without panic. You still care, but you no longer collapse when things do not unfold as you wished. You stop demanding that life behave perfectly before you allow yourself peace. And in that moment, strength begins to grow where anxiety once lived. Detachment builds inner strength because it teaches the heart how to stand on its own. When you stop leaning emotionally on what is unstable, your soul becomes self-sustaining. You no longer fall apart when people change. You no longer crumble when plans collapse. You no longer lose yourself when something leaves. You discover that your foundation does not come from what surrounds you, it comes from what anchors you inside. This realization transforms your character. You become steady, you become calm, you become resilient. Life no longer shakes you at every turn. You remain rooted even when the wind rises. That rootedness is true strength, the kind that does not announce itself but carries you through everything. Detachment also builds emotional discipline. Instead of reacting impulsively, you respond intentionally. You observe situations before allowing them into your heart. You stop giving instant access to your peace. You choose where your energy flows. This discipline protects your inner world from constant disturbance. The heart learns how to filter experiences rather than absorb everything. Over time, your emotional muscles grow stronger. You are no longer overwhelmed by every disappointment, every word, every change. You remain composed even when life is noisy. That composure becomes your power. When you detach, inner calm becomes your natural state. Calm no longer depends on circumstances. It comes from acceptance. You stop fighting what has already happened. You stop resisting what you cannot change. You stop carrying tomorrow's worries into today's moments. The mind quiets because it no longer feels the need to control everything. The heart softens because it no longer fears every possible loss. This calm is not emptiness, it is stability. It allows you to move through life with clarity, patience, and quiet confidence. Detachment strengthens your connection with Allah because your heart finally learns where true security lives. You stop placing creation where only the Creator belongs. You stop seeking emotional safety from what was never meant to provide it. Instead, your reliance deepens, your trust grows, your faith becomes the center of your emotional world. This shift brings a peace that nothing external can take away. Even when life becomes uncertain, your heart remains settled because it is anchored in something eternal. Detachment also teaches you how to let go without bitterness. You release what no longer serves your growth without carrying anger in your chest. You move forward without dragging resentment behind you. Your heart becomes lighter. You begin to experience freedom from emotional baggage that once weighed you down. This freedom does not erase the past, but it prevents the past from ruling your present. You keep the lessons without carrying the wounds. As detachment deepens, you become less reactive and more reflective. You no longer jump to conclusions. You no longer exhaust yourself trying to fix what is not yours to fix. You conserve your energy for what truly matters. Your life becomes simpler. Your mind becomes clearer. Your heart becomes calmer. Strength grows quietly through this simplicity. Detachment builds self-respect. You stop tolerating what drains you. You stop chasing what harms you. You stop abandoning yourself to keep others comfortable. You honor your needs, your limits, and your peace. This self-respect becomes the foundation of your emotional strength. You walk with dignity because your heart is no longer desperate for validation. With detachment, fear loses its grip. Fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown, all soften when you realize you are capable of surviving change. You trust that Allah's plan will carry you even when the road ahead is unclear. That trust removes the emotional panic that once controlled your thoughts. You begin to live with courage instead of worry. Detachment also sharpens your judgment. You see situations for what they are, not what you wish they were. You stop romanticizing what hurts you. You stop excusing what breaks your peace. You become honest with yourself. That honesty strengthens your choices and protects your future. Inner calm becomes your companion. You no longer rush. You no longer force. You allow life to unfold while you remain steady. You stop exhausting yourself with constant emotional turbulence. You become selective with your time, your attention, and your emotional investment. Your days become quieter, your nights become calmer, your heart becomes home. As detachment matures, you stop fearing endings. You trust beginnings. You release attachments without feeling empty. You carry love without clinging. You become whole within yourself, supported by faith. Detachment transforms how you experience relationships. You love without losing yourself. You give without draining yourself. You receive without depending. You walk beside people instead of hanging on to them. This balance protects your heart and strengthens every bond you keep. Your inner calm becomes visible. People feel safe around you because you are no longer chaotic inside. Your presence becomes peaceful. Your words become gentle. Your energy becomes steady. Strength continues to grow through this calm. You face challenges without collapsing. You endure hardship without breaking. You move through uncertainty with patience. You remain hopeful even when answers are delayed. Detachment makes you emotionally mature. You understand that not everything deserves a reaction. You choose your battles wisely. You protect your peace fiercely. Eventually, you realize that detachment was not about losing your heart, it was about saving it. It did not make you distant, it made you strong. It did not make you cold, it made you calm. It did not make you empty, it made you free. This is the strength that detachment builds. This is the calm it creates. This is the life it gives back to you. When your heart depends on Allah, happiness becomes natural. When your heart truly depends on Allah, happiness no longer feels like something you must chase. It becomes the quiet atmosphere of your life. You stop searching for it in people, situations, achievements, or approval. You stop waiting for the world to arrange itself perfectly before allowing your heart to rest. Instead, happiness grows from a deeper place, from trust, from acceptance, from knowing that whatever Allah chooses for you carries wisdom, even when it carries pain. This kind of happiness does not shout, it settles, it stays. It remains with you on good days and difficult nights because it is not built on circumstances but on connection with the one who controls them. A heart that depends on Allah is no longer emotionally homeless. It has a place to return to whenever it feels tired, confused, or overwhelmed. People may misunderstand you, situations may collapse, plans may fail, but your heart remains anchored. That anchoring transforms how you experience life. You still feel sadness, disappointment, and struggle, but they do not consume you. Beneath every emotion there is stability, a quiet assurance that you are held by divine care. From that assurance, happiness flows naturally, without effort, without force, without exhaustion. When dependence shifts from creation to the Creator, emotional pressure dissolves. You stop demanding that people meet expectations they were never designed to fulfill. You stop placing your emotional future in fragile hands. You stop building your peace on what can change at any moment. This release removes enormous weight from your chest. You breathe deeper, you think clearer, you live lighter. Happiness emerges not because everything is perfect, but because your heart is finally in the right place. A heart that depends on Allah no longer fears abandonment. Even when people leave, your world does not collapse. Even when relationships end, your soul remains whole. You understand that Allah's presence in your life is constant while human presence is temporary. That understanding creates emotional security. You walk through life without desperation, without clinging, without panic. You still love deeply, but you love without losing yourself. This balance produces a steady happiness that cannot be shaken by change. When your heart belongs to Allah, you stop comparing your life with others. You no longer measure your happiness against their milestones, their timelines, their successes. You accept your path as uniquely written. That acceptance brings contentment. Contentment gives birth to happiness. You begin appreciating your own journey instead of envying someone else's. The heart grows grateful, and gratitude is the soil where happiness grows strongest. Depending on Allah also softens your relationship with the future. You no longer obsess over what is coming. You plan, you strive, you prepare, but you do not panic. You trust that whatever arrives will arrive with the strength to face it. That trust removes the anxiety that poisons happiness. Your mind rests, your heart remains calm, your soul feels safe. When your heart depends on Allah, you stop fearing mistakes. You stop punishing yourself for every failure. You understand that growth is part of the journey and that Allah's mercy is greater than your imperfections. This self-compassion removes shame and opens the door to peace. From that peace, happiness rises naturally. This dependence also changes how you experience hardship. Struggles no longer feel like signs of abandonment. They feel like chapters of preparation. You learn to look for meaning instead of despair. You endure with patience instead of panic. Your heart remains hopeful even when the road is difficult, and that hope protects your happiness from collapsing. A heart attached to Allah finds joy in simple things. A quiet prayer, a calm morning, a moment of gratitude, a breath of relief. Happiness stops being a destination and becomes a daily experience. You no longer wait for extraordinary events to feel alive. You discover beauty in ordinary moments. This is what it means when your heart depends on Allah. Your life becomes lighter, your mind becomes quieter, your soul becomes steadier, and happiness no longer chased becomes your natural state. When your heart depends on Allah, your relationship with loss changes completely. Loss no longer feels like the end of your happiness, it becomes part of your transformation. You still grieve, you still feel the ache, but you do not collapse inside it. You understand that what leaves your life was never meant to be your foundation. Your foundation remains untouched. This understanding creates emotional resilience. You recover faster, you heal deeper, you walk forward stronger. Happiness does not disappear when something is taken, because your heart is anchored in what can never be taken. This dependence also removes the emotional burden of approval. You stop living for people's validation. Praise no longer defines you. Criticism no longer destroys you. Your worth no longer rises and falls with public opinion. You live with inner alignment. That alignment produces confidence. Confidence produces calm. Calm allows happiness to flourish without effort. When Allah becomes your emotional home, you no longer carry resentment. You forgive more easily. You let go faster. You stop holding anger in your chest because your heart does not want to poison itself. This emotional cleanliness allows happiness to flow freely. A heart full of resentment cannot host peace. A heart free of resentment naturally attracts joy. Depending on Allah teaches your heart how to be patient. You stop demanding immediate results. You stop rushing your life. You stop forcing timelines. You learn to wait with faith instead of anxiety. This patience removes pressure from your soul. Pressure suffocates happiness. Patience protects it. Your heart also becomes less reactive. You stop letting every inconvenience disturb your inner world. You choose calm over chaos. You choose understanding over anger. You choose silence over unnecessary conflict. These choices create an environment where happiness can survive even during storms. When your heart depends on Allah, you stop fearing solitude. You no longer feel empty when alone. You feel accompanied. You feel safe. You feel seen. That sense of companionship prevents loneliness from turning into sadness. You become content with yourself, and contentment is one of the deepest forms of happiness. You also stop chasing what is not meant for you. You recognize when doors close as protection rather than punishment. This awareness removes bitterness from your heart. You accept life instead of fighting it. Acceptance creates inner peace, and peace is the soil of happiness. A heart connected to Allah becomes grateful even in difficulty. Gratitude softens pain. Gratitude brightens perspective. Gratitude multiplies blessings. And blessings create happiness not through abundance, but through appreciation. Depending on Allah strengthens your emotional independence. You stop needing people to regulate your mood. Your happiness becomes internal, stable, and reliable. This independence frees you from emotional exhaustion. Your life becomes simpler. Your heart becomes lighter. Your happiness becomes quieter but deeper. And the more your heart depends on Allah, the more you realize that happiness was never missing from your life. It was only waiting for your heart to return home. When your heart depends on Allah, you stop measuring happiness by how smoothly life goes. You understand that true happiness is not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of meaning. Hardship no longer feels empty or pointless. It becomes a chapter in a story you trust. That trust keeps your spirit alive when circumstances feel heavy. Even on days when you struggle to smile, something inside you remains steady, hopeful, and quietly content. That is the happiness that faith builds. Your emotional world becomes organized. You no longer live in constant emotional extremes. You experience joy without losing control and sadness without losing hope. Your reactions soften. Your perspective widens. You stop treating temporary problems as permanent threats. This emotional balance is one of the greatest gifts of depending on Allah. It allows happiness to exist alongside hardship without being destroyed by it. Depending on Allah also heals your relationship with your past. You stop being trapped by old mistakes, regrets, and missed opportunities. You accept that every chapter, even the painful ones, contributed to who you are today. This acceptance removes shame and replaces it with wisdom. Your heart becomes gentle with itself. That gentleness creates room for happiness to return. Your future also stops frightening you. You stop obsessing over what might go wrong. You plan responsibly, but you do not panic. You trust that whatever comes will come with Allah's support. This trust removes the anxiety that steals joy from the present moment. You begin to live fully today instead of mentally suffering in tomorrow. When your heart depends on Allah, you stop chasing perfection. You allow life to be imperfect without letting your happiness collapse. You learn to appreciate progress, effort, and growth. You become thankful for small victories and quiet moments. This appreciation deepens your sense of joy. Your mind becomes calmer. Overthinking slows. Worry weakens. The inner noise softens. With that calm, happiness settles naturally. Your heart becomes more compassionate. You treat others with understanding because your own soul is at peace. This compassion improves your relationships, and better relationships nurture happiness. You also become more content with less. You no longer need constant stimulation, entertainment or validation to feel alive. Simplicity becomes satisfying. Stillness becomes comfortable. This simplicity protects happiness from burnout. Depending on Allah gives your life coherence. Your values align with your actions. Your intentions guide your decisions. This inner harmony strengthens your sense of purpose, and purpose gives happiness depth. Slowly, quietly, gently, happiness becomes the background of your life rather than a destination you chase. When your heart depends on Allah, you begin to feel emotionally safe in a world that is constantly changing. Even when circumstances shift, relationships evolve, or plans collapse, your heart remains anchored. This inner security is what allows happiness to survive even in uncertainty. You no longer panic when things fall apart, because you trust that Allah is rearranging your life with wisdom beyond your sight. You stop interpreting every delay as a loss. You understand that some things are being held back for your protection, your growth, and your future peace. That understanding replaces frustration with acceptance, and acceptance is one of the purest forms of happiness. Your dependence on Allah transforms how you experience success as well. When good things happen, your heart does not become arrogant or restless. You receive blessings with gratitude instead of fear of losing them. Gratitude stabilizes joy and prevents happiness from turning into anxiety. Your relationships become healthier. You love without attachment, care without control, and give without draining yourself. You stop expecting people to complete you because your heart is already full. This emotional fullness protects happiness from disappointment. When your heart depends on Allah, your life slows down. You stop rushing your healing. You stop forcing outcomes. You stop punishing yourself for not being where you think you should be. You walk at your own pace with trust. This gentleness with yourself allows happiness to grow quietly and steadily. You begin noticing how often Allah is taking care of you in ways you once overlooked, through protection, redirection, answered prayers, and even unanswered ones. This awareness deepens your sense of joy and appreciation for life. You stop living in constant emotional survival mode. You start living in emotional stability. You are no longer trying to escape your life. You are present inside it. Your heart becomes a place of peace rather than pressure. And from that peace, happiness flows naturally, without being forced, without being chased, without being fragile. This is the secret. When your heart belongs to Allah, happiness is no longer something you seek, it is something you live. My dear brothers and sisters, the moment you release your grip on what you cannot control, your heart finally begins to breathe. Detachment is not about loving less, it is about trusting Allah more. It is choosing calm over chaos, faith over fear, and peace over pressure. When your heart stops demanding that people behave a certain way, that situations unfold perfectly, or that life follow your expectations, you will discover a happiness that is quiet, steady, and unshakable. That kind of happiness is not built on circumstances, it is built on tawakkul. So walk forward with a lighter heart. Place your worries where they belong, in Allah's hands. When you detach from the world and attach yourself to your Creator, nothing can disturb your peace.